kids, welcome to Stylus Rumble Effects Time thing. This is one of those last minute videos. I think I've talked myself into doing some fire, so we'll see how that goes. So I have some super top secret master controller news coming up on Wednesday. I may have been talking to a programmer is working on something top secret that I will show you all on Wednesday. So stay tuned. Also today is the 11th of November. So today's the Saturday before I post this. And I went to the very first Toon Boom Camp thing day. So if any of you guys are following Toon Boom, they're posting a lot about these free camps that they're doing all over the world. The first one was here, was in Toronto, which is not far from me. So they're like, why don't you come down for the day and see what it's about? And they gave me some free swag. I got one of these cool little mittens. Like one of those drawing mittens. Toon Boom so swag. I love free stuff. That's why I got on the internet. It's for the mittens. And they also gave me the best pen. So I got a Toon Boom pen, which I'm stoked about. And it's a pen and a pencil. It's like a blue pen and a black pen and a pencil. Like it's like a clicky, you know, like a mechanical pencil. This is the best pen. So I'm definitely going to be posting some Toon Boom pen sketches soon because this is super cool. I got to keep this away from my kid. It's got all the colors. Loving it. So I had a lot of fun. Everybody at Toon Boom is super nice. You know, I'm always flirting with them on Twitter and stuff. And it was fun to finally meet the people that I kind of keep in touch with from there. I definitely recommend anybody who's kind of got their feet wet in Harmony, but they haven't really gone deep diving into the software. Like, check and see if they're doing this near you, because it's a free thing for 2 days, and they're going to teach you a bunch of stuff, and there's snacks and pens. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? It's free. You'd be stupid not to do free things if they're coming to your city. Why wouldn't you do that? So they got a couple coming up in Los Angeles and Vancouver. And they're going to go overseas, all sorts of places. So go and take a peek at that. And yeah, have yourself some learning. Because I learned a few tricks that I didn't know. And I've been doing this for decades. So you never know you're going to pick up those things. And I mean, I can't promise the pen. That might have been a one-time shot. I don't know. So what we're going to do today is play with some fire. So one thing with fire, I mean, you could start off very, very simple. So I'm just going to create a little blue. So if you needed a candle flame, that's all you need, okay? And no matter what version, got some new stuff over here. It's messing me up. So flame. Always name your stuff. Don't be lazy. And set up your pivot point. So I'm going to put right there. With a candle flame, you can do this with no matter what version you're using, because you don't need any fancy. Some people get a little crazy and they'll put like deformers and stuff in here, or an envelope deformer on a candle flame. That's lunacy. That's absolutely crazy. So all you have to do is just like boopy doop, put in some little boopy doops here. Come on, stop motion. And then put some wigglies in there too. Wiggly, wiggly. Now you got boopy doops and wigglies. And your candle flame is sort of like moving around. You don't really need to overthink it. I mean, if you really need to get some sway in here, like you want your candle flame to actually like get some of this stuff, what you can do is put in one of those and put in one of those. You get a couple different, so you can just put in a couple little slightly different shapes like this, and then morph between them, make a little cycle. So I'm going to select the morph part, morph, and convert to drawings. Okay, morphing, convert B. And then I'm going to set all the exposures to 2. And then I'm also going to set this on 2s. Because if your animation's on 2s, you want your flame to be on 2s. And now you're getting a little bit more, you see the pop where it goes from the end, because I didn't loop it exactly. But that's all you need for a candle flame. I mean, candle flames are quite small. See, that looks kind of nice. Well, let's just play with some of these nodes over here. So the glow is sort of your obvious go-to here. I'll just grab that and open it up. So I've talked about this a little bit in the past on some things, but basically you have a blur radius built in, so you can turn that up and it's going to blur out your guy. It automatically kind of turns it into a light module, so it takes away the color, because down here it's controlling the color. But what you can do instead is just use the source color, and that'll bring back your original one. Down here, the intensity, this will burn it out. So if you turn this up real high, you're going to get a real hot center and a little bit more of a colored outline. You can play with your color in here if you want a blue flame or a pink flame. This kind of looks neat. So there's all sorts of stuff in here you can play with, but now you've got yourself a little candle flame. Another way of doing it, if you wanted something a little bit more iconic. So we're going to drag it in a matte resize. Boop. And we're just going to bring it down a little bit. This is the one on top. You're not able to see it. So what I'm going to do is throw in a color scale. So your color scale is going to act a little bit like your hue saturation thing in Photoshop. So you can turn the saturation down and get yourself a white, and then use your matte resize to just scale it down uniformly all the way around the edge. So by doing that, you can have the same sort of thing. You can't see it in the GL view. To check it in the render view, that looks okay. You can just kind of scrub along and see what it's going to look like. And then you could, of course, stack these. So you could throw a glow here on top of both of these, either together. So we could beep beep and throw a glow in between. So you're going from that to this. So that looks a lot like this. Like adding that extra layer doesn't really do much. The matte resize thing is really if you just want to keep it really iconic, or if you're just adding a blur. So adding just a radial blur to things is another way to get a cheap glow. So just adding 2 of those. But this is not going to look nearly as blown out as if you throw this guy on here. So there's the glow, there's the blur. Glow. I like the glow a lot. I'm gonna keep that. Alright, so you're like, oh, Tracy, okay, there's a candle flame. That's so boring. I could figure that one out. But now, just starting with this, there's lots of things we can do in very simple shows. One in particular, Peppa Pig. That sort of British storybook show, I'd want to say. It's the same studio that does Ben and Holly. These are 2 shows my son really likes, so I've been looking at the fire in them lately. So what you can do is just take a bunch of these, paste special this guy a few times. And this is something like you might see on Peppa Pig, that sort of super simple show. They probably wouldn't put like a super rad glow module on there. But you get a bunch of these little fire dancing guys just stacked one on top of the other. And if they're all running at kind of the same pace, it's not super great. But what we can do, boop, we'll get a whole bunch of these, and then we'll stagger them a bit. Boop, boop. The timeline looks a little bit more crampy, I think, in the new version of Harmony. I don't know if that's just me. It's like ever so slightly different. I don't know how I feel about change in general. And now you've got a few little fires moving at different paces. Make sure if they're all on 2s, your keyframes are kind of happy and stuff. And we've got a little bit of a fire. And you can throw a little glow on there. So this is a great little cheap fire for simple stuff. I mean, you don't need to add a glow to the top of it. You could keep it fairly simple and iconic, but this, it looks like a nice little real fire just using those things. And you can, of course, play with the scale and stuff a lot more. And that's going to get you a nice little fire. Those are always nice. So I'm going to deactivate that. So I think the one you guys are kind of waiting for, I'm going to create a new little flame because that has way too many drawing substitutions. And I don't want to do 7,000 frames. So instead what I'm going to do, I'm going to think about how big I want my fire to be, or how long, say. So let's say I'll make it 12 frames long, and I'm going to throw in just a couple little drawing substitutions like this, and maybe curve it a little bit. So I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to bring it back to straight, so wiggle to the right, so wiggle to the left, straight. I'm going to make a wiggle to the right, and then it goes back to straight. So this just kind of gives me a foundation to start building on. You can certainly spend as much time as you want getting this wiggle to look exactly like you want, and have it go back to center, and then just do a little cheat in here. There are a few morphs, and then you can play around with the timing. So this is the great thing about morphing. You can go in and adjust afterwards. So now we have a little dancing fire. He's kind of going side to side, but I don't feel like doing a million drawings today. I had a long day today. So now our thing is 13 frames long, but number 1 and number 13 are identical, so I'm just going to delete 13, and of course I don't have hotkeys set up for deleting frames, so he's going to just be a little dancing fire. That's right. So similar to our bubbles and our other thing, if I want to make a cycle, what I'm going to do is just paste this along a whole bunch of times. You can use paste special, and you got your little dancing fire. He's kind of like da 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 Not super fire-like, but it's okay. We can work with this. So the idea I'm going for here is fire. When you're dealing with fire, you can think of it in an additive and a subtractive way. So here, what I'm going to do is just cut out a little hole that runs up the length of the fire. And it's breaking up that really crisp silhouette, because that's not a look we want to go to for fire. And I'm going to go along just like whenever I do a cycle, and I'm just going to walk along my chain and add pieces as I go. Here we need another hole, and you can vary the size of the holes and the speed of the holes. The important thing is to just get some fun shapes in here, breaking up that silhouette. That's one of the fun things about effects like this, is you can play with it as much as you want depending on the style of the show. You can do something really simple shapes, or you can do really crazy shapes. But definitely just go on Pinterest and Google like cartoon fire, stuff like that. And now I've got this. So it's running quite quickly, but fire tends to be really fast anyway. So we can switch that to 2s later, and we can even in between once things are done. But it does feel like holes in a leaf right now. So the next step, once I've done subtractive step, I'm going to go in and do an additive step. So here I can put on some of those neat wings that fire has, fire shapes, and you can play around with that shape as much as you like and have it whip across here at the top. And you can even have it keep going here and do some little sparks, something like that. And you continue along your entire thing like this and do an additive step. So you can add and subtract as many times as you want until you feel like your shape is really something that is making you happy. Like I said, there's endless possibilities of how fire shapes could go. So don't limit yourself with just, you know, this. I mean, fire can be a lot tighter and thinner and angrier looking, or you can do a happy little fire. I'm so happy. But play with the shapes. Go and check out other people's fire and see what kind of shapes they're using, how many layers, because of course once you are totally satisfied with this, you could go in and either use a matte resize like I did with the other one to create a white center, or you could throw the glow on top and just let the compositing take care of that, the look of it a little bit, so that the two pieces kind of cross. I'm not going to have that one go up, I'm just going to have this one kind of trail back down a little bit. All right, so I've just gone in and kind of added stuff to fill in all those gaps, or any of like the smooth edges, just to get some interesting shapes. And this is a super simple way of approaching a fire. You can just do freehand fires if you want, and get some interesting shapes that way. See, it goes pretty quick. This is a little bit too symmetrical for my liking. Like right here, all our shapes are lined up very symmetrically, and that's just, I'm just too tired to be really paying attention to that. So I'm gonna put it on 2s, and there you can see. For not too much work, I've been at this for like 20 minutes now, you can get a pretty decent fire. And once you throw a beefy glow on there, all right, so once I throw a glow on this, I've played around with the settings a little bit, turned the radius up quite a bit. You can get a pretty interesting effect. So even though these edges, I mean, if you're looking at this, you're like here, I was not very careful. Here, there's a gap. There's some places where I just didn't fill in areas, and that's totally fine. You could even go through and create cool spots. I haven't even set my brush up here. Jeez. Minimum size down, get some brush quality in there. So did this one. So by throwing in little cold spots like this, once you composite them, you can see it's starting to yellow out this area. You have to take a really good chunk out of it to get a hole. So look how big this is, and then how little it actually is here. So if you are compositing stuff, that's a good thing to keep in mind. Like, you go through and put these tiny holes in there, and then you render it out and you can't even see it. But these bigger holes, you can see those are coming through. So I'll just render this. Yes. And you can see what that looks like. It's a little bit it's still got that wiggle to it. Our initial, remember, dancing back and forth. So this particular fire has like a lefty righty. He's kind of like, oh, I'm a fire. Yeah, he's kind of happy little fire. So you want to take a little bit more care when you're creating that initial foundation, that you really get the fire movement that you want. So if this is just like a tiki torch or something, this is totally fine. It's something that takes about 25 minutes to do. It's not going to take you an entire day to come up with something that cycles. And if it's not the biggest thing on the screen, you're certainly not going to worry too much about the little nuances of stuff. Because, I mean, if you had a tiki torch about this size, that looks great. There's nothing wrong with that. Make it a little smaller. If I was doing something like this for a bunch of tiki torches, if that was an important part of the show, if it was just a one-off, it'd be fine. But if they're like a dungeon crawling adventure series and they constantly sing them, you know, I'd spend 2 hours or so making 3 of these, spending the time really making them look nice and different, unique from one another. And then I'd have a few different ones to populate the scene with. So if 2 are right next to each other, they're not looking too samey. But you know, it's getting fancy. So that's your basic fires that you can start out with. This is really just the beginning. I mean, you go watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, not the movie. That's not a thing that we do in our lives. Never watch the movie. But the television series, I mean, there's so much beautiful fire in there where you can see fireballs, fire kicks, fire swooshes, fire boots where like they're flying and stuff. Super, like the best reference for effects because they're incredible. This is a great place to start. So stay tuned for more news. I am, of course, working on my film in the background here. I have a couple little things I've been working on my character design, and I have kind of a first pass at her face. I'm not sure if I like it yet, but I've been just playing with different hairstyles, going through and like, what do I feel about this? I think this one's kind of cute, but a little too Tinkerbell. And then I've got like an Ashley Birch style hairstyle with the big like front end curls. I think those are cute. But how much I want to animate, and here like a little bit rounder face style. So this stuff is happening behind the scenes, just slow and steady because I've been super busy, but I haven't put it down. Know that things are happening. I've been playing around with my boards a little bit, so hopefully I'll have some time in the next couple of weeks to keep going through the boards, and I've also been working on some background design. I think what I need to do is kind of like consolidate my process, plan a little better. I'm kind of all over the place and just having a lot of fun, but this is my relaxed project. Okay, so give me a break. That's enough of that. And definitely check out the Toon Boom camps. You too could get your very own Toon Boom pen. Yay. I didn't wear my glove because it's weird. It's not something I'm used to. I don't know if I could get used to drawing with a mitten on. Do you guys use a drawing mitten? Let me know down below. So like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do. I'll see you in the next video. And there's no music here. These are a lie.